And next up we have Neon Dark, a LitRPG adventure, Zero.Hero, book number 1, written by J.D. Astra. This is the same author who's written a side series for the Reading It Line series. If you like that, you might like this. It is 298 pages. It is $4.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. And here's the author's description. The greatest heroes have already fallen. Now it's up to Claire and her ragtag crew of zeros to save the city. Low-rank contractors Claire, Elsie, Norah, and Piper dream of making up to the top 20 with the Stewards of Light. But their weird RPG powers have them trapped near the bottom instead. Balancing college, part-time jobs, and family matters leaves the girls without much time to fight crime and grind out the experience they need to climb the ranks. When a new threat emerges, the gamer girls are left standing in a city turned upside down with no hero to save them. The underclassmen are outclassed, but they're also the only ones who can stop the spread of chaos. Claire and her friends will have to unravel the mess with clever teamwork and determination, and find the top-rank heroes in themselves to save the city before it falls into darkness. So there we go. I kind of had a hard time getting these characters. The main character, it's a female protagonist to the main character, and all the people in her team are also women. And so that's a very interesting and less used dynamic. For me, it was harder to relate because it is so faithful to a female mentality. And there are some, I want to say, touchy-feely relationship aspects and scenes that I was like, oh, this is probably what really happens with women. I'm not one of them though, so it's hard for me to relate. But that's me as a dude. So I think it will definitely appeal more to a different reader in that respect. Another thing that kind of put me off a little bit, for like a tiny bit really, there are a few forced plot moments, in particular like when the main character gets a magical doohickey that she needs to overcome a very specific obstacle later. I was like, oh, I thought that was going to happen when you got that thing early in the story. It's like, this doesn't seem like it applies to anything. It's going to come back later. And it did. And that's one of those things that's kind of pet peeve for me, where it's like, oh, the only reason this thing exists is to solve this story problem later. I'm like, oh, okay. So instead of like the main character relying upon their own powers or abilities, it's an outside influence. I'm like, oh, that's not like annoying to me personally. But beyond those two like minor points, this is quite a good story. It's enjoyable. It combines superhero stuff with a modern setting, mostly slice of life stuff, a little bit of relationship issues, but also just like some pretty decent action adventure stuff. And it was enjoyable. It really was. In particular, I liked how the RPG powers were so much a part of the characters' lives. It wasn't just something they did for action adventure stuff. It's something that impacted them on a daily basis and that they used on a daily basis in their lives, with their families, with their communities, with their relationships. And that's kind of what I like to see with LitRPG, and then that the RPG stuff really has an impact on the entirety of a character's life. And so in that respect, super good. In other respects, it's just harder for me to connect with some of the story points, especially like the relationship. Like I'm not really, that's not my thing. And that's perfectly okay. We all have things that we really enjoy and things that we don't, and that varies from person to person. For me, that kind of took up a little bit, but overall it's still really quite good. It gets a good story combining a good superhero stuff with LitRPG, with female protagonists. So if those things are really important, you really like them, this might be really up your alley. For me, I get to score a 7.5 out of 10. That's a good score. I enjoyed it. A little bit less than just for those few little points, but still quite a good story that I think other people will enjoy a lot more. Again, that's Neon Dark, a LitRPG adventure, Zero.Hero book number 1, with the score 7.4 out of 10.